I learned that money isn't everything, and working those long hours and that burnout, it's a reality. I learned to chase your happiness, really.
In this episode, we meet Dr. Christina Hidalgo, a financial expert and educator whose journey has been defined by courage, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity.
A lot of times, you have this leadership role and you don't realize how it affects someone's livelihood.
Strive for excellence, not perfection. Because you're never going to get perfection, but at least excellence is a goal that, even though you'll never really reach it either, just the fact that you deal with things in a certain way, professional way, self-accountability, I messed up, I'm so sorry.
You just have to have a lot of faith in yourself and know that there are other opportunities out there. Sometimes it falls on your lap, other times it definitely won't. So you just really have to have that faith in yourself. You define yourself however you want to be defined. Whether you want people to respect you, then find a way for them to respect you. In life, you're either a victim or a victor. Choose it. I always choose a victor.
Resilience and authenticity are the cornerstones of a fulfilling life and career. I'm Alex Ponce. In this episode, we meet Dr. Christina Hidalgo, a financial expert and educator whose journey has been defined by courage, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. From navigating personal challenges and revelations to balancing a thriving career and higher education. Dr. Hidalgo's story is one of perseverance, love, and the power of staying true to oneself. Well, good morning, Dr. Christina Hidalgo. How are you?
Good, and you? Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. How was your drive-in?
Good. I got a little confused on the buildings, but I made it. So.
What do you mean you got confused in the buildings?
When you're driving, you see them, but when you're walking, it's kind of hard to see the names on the buildings. But
well, it's FIU. I mean, they're constantly growing. So
it's amazing. It's so I'm a remote student, or I was, so more or less hybrid, and I went to the Brickell campus. So coming here, it's just a different world. And it's so amazing to see what it was to what it is, or it's going to be. I can't imagine.
Well, I mean, I could have sworn I saw a bank. I see restaurants now. Yeah. I have dorms now on campus and off. Yeah. I mean, it's impressive because the school was started, in the late 70s? So yeah, it's exploded.
Yes, it's exploded. It's beautiful. My DBA graduation day, what they did for us and what the history that they gave in the background was so amazing. Honestly, I was really impressed. I think when I signed up for FIU initially to get my DBA, I was just like, okay, well, it fits my schedule. But then after, I was just so proud, to be a Panther. So,
and that's now.
Yes.
Could you imagine in 20 years where the school's going to be?
No, 100%. I mean, I'm super grateful. So,
I mean, I've been to a lot of different places, Harvard, and I could tell you that whereas that kind of maintains its tradition and its placement, and they'll grow a little bit, but then they establish themselves and then they grow a little bit. FIU is pedal to the metal. They want to see how far they can go and expand. So I'm always impressed by FIU.
They've blown up, so I'm super grateful to be a Panther. So,
but that being said, you are right now not only working at a wonderful company called Syntheon 2.0, but you're also a professor at Miami Dade.
Yes, correct.
Well, actually, it's just called Miami College now.
Yeah.
They've advanced. They were Miami Dade Community College, then Miami Dade College, and then now just Miami College. So you're spreading the Panther love to different places.
Definitely.
Tell me what excites you about teaching. Let's start with that first because that's a little easier to address. Tell me about it. I mean, what's your relationship with education and with teaching individuals?
I guess to really digest it, we have to go back to the beginning. So when I was in high school, I guess, I'm 43 years old now. So take it back to when I was 18. I probably had a learning disability that went undiagnosed. And that kind of pushed me into a special class. So I wasn't in the special class where, I needed additional help, maybe because I was actually getting good grades, but I just wouldn't pay attention. So I had that ADHD, which now I'm diagnosed with. So growing up, I was labeled and put in the classes that were called SARP at the time, so Student at Risk Program. And basically, I was told that I would not walk across the high school stage.
Wow.
And in many instances, I almost didn't, but that's for other reasons. But either way, I just didn't have that love for being in the classroom, if that made any sense. So when I did graduate and I went to Miami Dade Community College at the time, I wasn't ready. I felt pushed. I felt like I needed to go because my parents made me at the time. It was one of those prerequisites. Like if you're not going to school full time, then you're going to be dropped from your health care, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're kind of forced to go to school. And at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to be. Like it was a lot of pressure. Like what did I want to be when I wanted to grow up? Like, and now I need to pick my career. So I didn't do well, right? So I was technically kicked out of the college eventually from like failing out or just not attending. And then
you were still figuring this out, though.
Yeah.
I mean, how old were you at the time?
Gosh, like 18. So
I mean, most people don't know what they want to do with their entire lives at 18.
Exactly. But then you have that pressure that you need to pick your career and see what it is you're going to do. So then I decided that once I got kicked out of college, I was going to go and just start working. So I started working in accounting and, I went from the bottom up to assistant controller. And then I just couldn't go anywhere else without a degree. A lot of people require the degree.
Right.
So I decided to go back to school. So then I went to Broward College. Mm-hmm. And then I found at that time, instead of having the traditional classrooms, I started moving on to an online classroom, which I excelled in because then, it's you self-teach, you kind of, have different hours where you can go in and do it, since I was working full time. Mm-hmm. And then being a student full time also, I had to pick and choose my hours when I was able to really focus or maybe take my lunch hour and, do my work. So the online aspects really, like let me take off and see that, wow, I actually like school. Like I actually can do well in schools, right? So I was like, wow. And I met a professor that was actually doing her doctorate as well. I'm not sure if it was PhD at the time or a DBA. And she was just the coolest person. And she really inspired me to continue with my education. And I think that's where I'm at today now, teaching. So I want to inspire other children or students or, at any age, because really it's just whenever you go back or start.
How high do you go? Undergrads or grads as well?
Right now, I'm just doing undergrad.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope to do grad soon. It's just really my first opportunity to really...
So you're doing a lot of intro classes, negotiation, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I actually have my master's from Penn State in human resources. So they kind of have me focused there. So I'm teaching the human resources program students at Miami Dade College.
Okay. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
Yeah, for sure.
But so that's where your love for it came from, which started not hate, but you were set up wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
And because you were set up wrong, you just went down that path. Mm-hmm. And then it took you going through all these experiences for you to learn, oh, it isn't that I hate that.
Yeah.
It's just maybe you didn't like the way it was presented.
Correct.
And of course, if someone tells you you're never going to make it,
exactly,
you don't exactly feel motivated to prove them wrong.
Exactly.
More often, you kind of want to reluctantly accept what they say and move forward.
100%.
Tell me about Syntheon 2.0. What exactly is it that you do there? Mm-hmm. What is it that excites you, if it excites you? And I know many people that they'll look at a spreadsheet and go, that's a sexy spreadsheet. Because it's well organized and has the right formulas and everything else. Everyone's different. Mm-hmm. So tell me exactly what it is you do there and what is it that keeps you motivated to work at that place?
Definitely. So I'm going to say that I was a personality hire. Obviously, there was other people that had, maybe their CPA, they were up for the financial controller position. I don't have a CPA, but I've been working in accounting for 20 some odd years.
You have all the necessary background.
Exactly. So there's a lot to be argued there, whether a CPA is, the necessity for a financial controller or not. But I met with, at the time, my boss and the corporate attorney. And, they were having a lot of issues with a lot of turnover under the accounting manager there at the time.
Right.
So they were looking for somebody that had a different, style, a different personality, like somebody that would come in and, kind of make everybody happy and change the whole dynamics for the company.
Before that, hold on. Tell me more about the previous, and I know you don't want to say anything negative about anybody, 100%. But at the same time, it helps for the audience to understand what you're walking into. Mm-hmm. So give me an example of what leadership in that particular department was like before you walked in, what you basically came to replace.
Okay.
What was it like before?
To be honest with you, an amazing person, very brilliant. I have nothing negative to say about that person because I did work with them for a very short time. However, micromanager, kind of didn't trust her employees, was kind of doing weird things like measuring your sleeve and seeing how you're coming in. Is the shirt crisp?
So they were more worried about form over substance.
Correct. So, and that was the issue, right? So they were turning over. We, at the time, were using a lot of temp agencies. So it's easy to turn them over, like they just don't work for you. You didn't like the color of their shirt today. You don't really have to give too many excuses. And that was kind of what was happening. And like a lot of times, you have this leadership role and you don't realize how it affects someone's livelihood. And I kind of was really upset coming in there knowing the turnover rate. I want to say it was at least on the bare minimum 6 people that turned over in that department within a year. So I came in very...
Is it a big department?
No, I mean...
To me, big is like 50.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So, I mean, it would count like this person oversaw maybe 5 people. But yeah,
6 out of 5 out of 6, 6 out of 6. Like
yeah, it's ridiculous regardless. I mean, but to like have that, literally she would read their emails before they sent them or, before they entered it, she had to like sign over. Like it was just touching everything. And then also she was kind of frustrated because she was working like nights and weekends now because she was so busy checking them so heavily.
But she didn't trust the individuals. And these individuals, to be fair, are temporary individuals.
Correct.
So for all you know, just as well you have a good person, you might have someone that shouldn't be there.
100%.
So she was approaching every person apprehensively. Like,
yeah.
What do I have on my hands? Well, I'm going to play it safe and I'm just going to double check everything they do.
Correct.
Was that the hiring of temporary individuals, was that a financial decision by the company? Or was that because since they're already going to have turnover, they might as well do it through a temp agency?
I think that basically was it. And, at the time, since they had so much turnover, I think that, going through the process of maybe interviewing and hiring was too time consuming for a manager at that time. So they just felt like, I need this type of person, send it out to the recruiter found them. They would start, test them out. It works out or it doesn't, but.
Is it still like that now? Or have you moved to the traditional format where you just interview and you keep the people that you really like and then you build it from the inside?
So ironically enough, I did test it and went myself to go hire somebody when it became my turn to like build my team, after this person was let go or left on their own kind of that situation. So it's time for me to build my team now. And, I went the route of, going through like LinkedIn or like a career builder. And I started obtaining all these resumes and sorting out. And it took so much time.
It does.
And the quality of the candidates, honestly, like it kind of makes me wonder sometimes like what people do to like live in Miami. Because it's incredible to me. Like
smoke and mirrors, my friend.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Feet Finder, 100%. I don't know. I'm having trouble understanding this, but I was calling all these different ones in and, interviewing them. And they would ask for either a ridiculous amount of money with like nothing to back it up or like, I'm not one that I don't like to test people when they come in for like the accounting like skills or whatever test. I'm not too into that because I think a lot of times it's, you kind of have to let people like run with things. Like I let my staff just run with things because it's how I thought.
But that's once you trust them. Because if I just hired someone yesterday, I'm not going to automatically trust them. Except if maybe they came referred by somebody that I know is as rigorous as I am. And then I know that this person, if they can handle that person, they could easily handle me.
No, 100%. I mean, we do monthly reconciliation, so we'd be definitely able to tell whether someone did something incorrectly or not.
Right.
Or you do like a weekly check, but a daily or hourly minute check, I mean, you're just setting them up for failure. You're making them nervous to do entries. I just think that being too on top of somebody doesn't like really let them, show their skill.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Too much,
and it makes you the bad guy too.
Exactly. So I would ask the fun questions when I interviewed people and they're like, well, what's your favorite holiday or like things like that? Because I wanted to know whether they fit like the culture of what I'm trying to build, whether they were empathetic, whether they, like one of the things that I did see with one of the temps was like she made a mistake and I caught it. And I'm like, well, you did this. And then she's like, oh, well. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, at least show me that it like, oh, man, that was rough. Like, I'm so sorry or something. But like, I saw that and I saw it a couple times, like small little mistakes. So that's the type of person that I wouldn't want on my team versus like, I don't want to have to beat you up. Maybe you beat yourself up and that's good enough for me, like.
That is honest talk. That is honest talk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not looking for someone that's going for perfection. I mean, my argument has always been, as far as human resources and leadership is concerned, is strive for excellence, not perfection. Because you're never going to get perfection. But at least excellence is a goal that, even though you'll never really reach it either, just the fact that you deal with things in a certain way, professional way, self-accountability, oh, I messed up, I'm so sorry. I expect the leader to say, mistakes are a normal part of the process. In fact, I'm glad you make mistakes because you're not a machine.
Yes.
But let's see how we can make this better.
Exactly.
And if the person doesn't even seem affected by a mistake, like, oh, well, that's kind of a problem because this is a service industry.
Correct. So you have to own your mistake and be okay to make those mistakes. It's, it's what makes us human. And there's always a way to fix things 9 times out of 10. Now, if you send $1 billion out, maybe we might be able to recall that. So there is checks and balances and a dual control for those types of things. But a little entry mistake, I mean, come on.
Well, the problem with little entry mistakes, too, is that they're like little time bombs if you happen to miss it. Exactly. It's hard if you're doing reconciliation, but I could see that being a little time bomb. I saw it in law all the time where someone will make a mistake in a motion. These motions are filed months before the hearing. Correct. Most of the time, you don't read them till the night before the hearing. And if I know some of my people, they'll probably be reading it 5 minutes before they're going into the hearing. And then that's when it explodes because you realize it. Yeah. Worse is if someone else gets it first.
100%.
So, all right. So let me do this. Let me go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So I see that you worked at Smith Hyatt in Diaz.
Correct.
Tell me about that experience, because there you're going in as an assistant controller, or at least at some point you become that. But this is the very beginning for you for the most part.
Yes, definitely where I really got the feel for accounting. And I credit 100% my controller at that time. She just let me take control of my position and run with it. And that's really what inspired me. And like that, those leaders that have let me just take control and run with it have been the most instrumental to my professional career. Like those have really been the ones that, having that trust or giving that trust in me has really made me hold myself accountable and be that better employee or really show up. Or let's say even my boss now, because we're salaried at this point, but and he's a COO. So he even his time off, if he takes half a day, he actually puts that time in, and that really sets the bar for me, because if I'm going to take a half a day, now I'm going to put my time in versus maybe I worked 12 hours one day, the next day I work 4, I'm still going to hold myself accountable, for my PTO time or whatever, even though he might not, but I just like to see how he handles it. And then it kind of shows me how I should handle myself in a weird way. So I find those types of leaders very instrumental to my own professional career. So of course. So let me ask you this. When you started at Smith Hyatt and Diaz, was this after your bachelor's or after your master's? So I didn't have anything. I didn't have an AA.
This was straight out of Miami Dade, I guess. Yeah. Not even a couple, somewhere in between.
Yeah, a couple, different companies. After I left Miami Dade that I worked for, I had little accounting experience, maybe in accounts receivables, accounts payables, and that's kind of what led me there. Again, great interview with the controller. I made her laugh. She's like, what is I think her question was so funny, I'll never forget. She's like, what is your your greatest accomplishment? I go, getting divorced. She loved it. And that's the reason why I got hired. So sometimes it's just cracking that joke and making that impression. She's like, I love that answer. Most people will say something else like, oh, it was, obtaining my AA or whatever. But sometimes it's just making them laugh, really.
Was that true?
No, but it was just funny to say.
No, I'm just saying because
I love my ex-husband. It's fine.
But you did go through a divorce.
No, definitely. Yeah, no, I did go through a divorce. Okay. No, it was not my greatest accomplishment. It was just funny to say.
No. But that's interesting. Yeah. So here you are. You haven't really gotten anything yet.
Correct.
You're divorced. And you're going for this role, which even though you have some experience, you're really starting from the beginning.
Correct.
And right off the bat, you were kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
Because you got a very good position and you had someone that's on top, a supervisor that's almost seems like a mentor in a way.
100%.
Did this person help you not just with the work, but anything personal as well? Were they accommodating to you? They
were really cool. They let me do whatever I needed to do. I would fill her in as needed on different things, or maybe I was a TMI person where I maybe tell her a little bit too much. But actually, ironically enough, we had like a funny thing with our PTO because she would want the days that I would want after I would request them. So there's like positives and negatives, you know, with working with different people. But overall, just her letting me like run with the position and maybe train the new hires or oversee the billing department because she was busy doing other things. You know, having again that trust in me made me hold myself accountable to be that better employee. And I really loved it. I mean, I dealt with the ownership. I mean, still to this day, we still kind of chit chat back and forth, liking comments, you know, with the attorney, Mr. Diaz. So he still remembers me, which is kind of impressionable because it's been so many years since I left there. But that was nice to know that.
So they know you have a doctorate. They know that you're teaching. They know. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's a very nice. It's a very nice move to go back to the beginning. I'm like, hi, and this is where I'm at now.
Yeah, I know that you're remembered and you made some sort of impact. Whether you're not just a number.
So they're definitely on your LinkedIn there.
Yes.
Okay.
I love LinkedIn.
While you were there, what lessons did you learn about dealing with major transactions? Because you're not in a little accounting firm anymore. Now you're dealing with, even though it may be a boutique, as compared to like, I don't know, a major firm.
Yeah.
What were the lessons that you picked up? Because you don't deal with those transactions the way you deal with the little ones. Like,
I mean, I think it really taught me good work ethic because that firm was actually a foreclosure law firm and an REO firm because I kind of did both. I switched back and forth from the foreclosure side to the real estate resale side. We worked with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. I mean, really big GMACs at the time when the foreclosure thing happened. So I was burning the midnight oil working from home till like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and then back to work like at 9, 10 in the morning. I mean, it really like it was a lot of work. It came really quick. The pay was really great. I mean, hourly overtime, you can just imagine.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were doing just fine.
I was doing just fine, yes.
At the time that this was happening, did you have children?
No. So I had children later. I did have, I kind of was like a step parent at the time. I was dating somebody that had children. So that was nice. So,
so the question still applies though. So as you're going through this experience and you're dating someone with a child, for all intents and purposes, you're the stepmother.
Yes.
How did that affect your relationship with the two of them? I don't know if you were still with them or not now. But how did it affect your relationship with them having to work those late hours? I mean, in one side, it's excitement, it's responsibility, it's anxiety because it's scary.
Yeah.
And then you have home life.
Yeah.
Like, how did that affect?
Oh, well, I guess it was kind of good in a weird way because the other parent wasn't like the workaholic and didn't show the kids that responsible side. So the kids got to see that kind of through me, even though my person at that time was, but let's say their other parent that wasn't in the picture as much anymore. So they got to see that and they had to see like a good like home life. I mean, better groceries, better things for them. So like I became kind of the breadwinner of that family dynamic at that time. And I was able to help them have a better life. And, so I think it also made me work a little harder for them as well. I mean, So
you didn't see it as a negative challenge. You actually saw it as some sort of motivator to keep going, even if anything, go more.
Yeah. And to inspire them, maybe. I mean, I haven't had a conversation with them now that they're adults, but definitely would love to see maybe what their experience was. So you kind of brought a question into my head. Thank you.
Well, I hope it works out when you look into this. Are there lessons that you learned at this place that kind of stuck with you? Because my experience has always been that wherever you go, no matter how similar the work is, no matter how similar the locations are, every place has the, like the den mother, the elder person that's always taking care of everyone. You always have the taskmaster, you have the micromanager. Like it's almost like the same show, but with different actors. And for you, what experience have you integrated into yourself that still resonates to this day?
Okay, well, I think that definitely to unpack there, kind of why I left was they hired an operations manager that really changed the dynamic of the whole entire company. That kind of came in and was very like rough around the edges and very tough and very testing, right? And that person just made all the employees that had been there a long time that were super happy leave. So it kind of taught me about business in a weird way. Like you can, kind of make that wrong decision or bring in that wrong hire that just changes the whole atmosphere. I mean, the company kind of didn't do well after bringing in that person as much. I mean, all the good people were leaving. I left. So that really taught me kind of about business and, how one bad apple or one bad seed can really just rot the rest. So
do you agree with the statement, people don't leave companies, they leave bad managers?
I'm going to say yes, 100%.
So you could have a company that has great managers, and no matter if the compensation or everything else is off, for the most part, you're going to stay with them?
I think
if you're happy.
Yeah, if you're happy, definitely. I mean, I can speak to another experience I had as a temp that I worked for a very well-known architect company here in Miami that I'm not going to name drop. And it's husband and wife dynamic, and the wife was just so evil, but they paid so well. So I understood why, I call them professional prostitutes, still continue to work there because they were just paid so well, but the treatment was terrible. So it plays a role on your personal ethics or morality, what you're willing to kind of put up with. My threshold of putting up with things is very low. So,
so in your case, you just waited for the moment to hit for you to make a decision. Would you say that it's a good policy to be self-aware and know what your limits are in advance so that when moments like those come, you already know what you're going to do or not do?
Correct. I mean, I think that you just have to have a lot of faith in yourself and know that there are other opportunities out there. It might be a full-time position looking for a full-time position. Definitely, it's not. Sometimes it falls on your lap. Other times it definitely won't. So you just really have to have that faith in yourself. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay. So you've worked in accounting capacity as a senior financial reporting analyst?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. Mala Furman CPA.
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity. The controller at the time, granted me the position, maybe through a funny interview again. I try to make my interviews a little funny.
Did you divorce someone else this time?
It might have.
Okay.
Might have. But I forget what the question was there, but I think I made them laugh also. And I think that laughter really just, opens a lot of doors for you. Nobody wants the vanilla interview I think that for me, it's worked. So I'm going to say, definitely that's how I came in there. It was a great opportunity. I learned a lot, worked with CPAs, did their CPEs, saw how rigorous those CPA firms really work and the requirements. I mean, the emails that went on said that you were required to work 65 hours this week and how they really get burned out kind of to see the flip side of maybe an audit and things of that nature, even though I was more on the operational side.
Right.
It really opened the doors for me to understand accountants a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah. What'd you learn?
I learned again that money isn't everything, and working those long hours and that burnout, it's a reality. So I learned to chase your happiness, really, I think.
Well, I know a very well-placed law firm that has is global and happens to have an office in Brickell.
Okay.
And one of the things they do when they hire you is they give you a pager. And I'm like, from the 80s? And they're like, yes, because this way it guarantees we could get a message to you. You need to come in.
Oh.
Because for the most part, you're on call, like a doctor in a hospital, in case we have some sort of legal emergency, which I could tell you from having worked 19 out of the 25 years of law in criminal defense, there is no such thing as a legal emergency. But, okay. So for you, your lesson was that the burnout is real.
Correct.
And some things are just not worth the money.
100%.
And it all depends, though, because there are some people that are they wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, and they're ready to tackle the day. And they don't care if they come back at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But you're more sensible than that. You're no, you wanted a normal life. And I'm assuming at this point you have a home life of some sort? And yes and no, maybe.
I have my children and I have my wife. I have a same-sex marriage. I have...
By this point, you had already...
So this has now been, I guess we'll go back, to Mala Furman. Mm-hmm.
By that point, you had already...
Yeah. My spouse now, we actually work together there. Oh. I brought her on board with me from my prior position. So
very nice.
We work together there. We actually work together very well. Ironically enough, a lot of couples say that they don't or they would not, but we work wonderfully together. Hopefully in the future, we'll open our own little thing and do something together again. But that dynamic is nice. So Like right now, we have a good flow. She works from home. I work in an office. She's the main caretaker of our small children.
Okay.
And then I'm the breadwinner again. That's the position I like to play. And I just try my hardest to give them the best life possible. So
again, it's part of it's who you are.
Exactly.
So you had senior leadership positions at this company.
Correct.
So tell me about that experience. What was it like from your perspective, now having gone up the ranks, and you're now leading? How many direct reports did you have?
We're at Malaferman or right
Malaferman, yeah.
Malaferman, I did not have any direct reports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it got easier a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
so you were an individual contributor there.
Correct.
But you still had projects that you had to do.
100%.
Were the projects just yourself or other individuals?
No, I would work with other individuals. I worked with the CPA. I worked on one of the mayor re-election campaigns, working on the financial part of that. I worked with their
That's difficult.
Yeah, that was difficult. We actually had a funny instance where a check was deposited after a certain time. So it all worked out at the end.
It all worked out.
Yes. It was the bank's fault. But who else? Let's see. Family office services, I worked with them. So they would put me on different projects as needed as well, not just the operational side.
Were you an individual contributor at any point? Did you have leadership roles within any of these groups or teams that you could think of?
I mean, leadership roles in the sense of maybe overseeing like
you're the project manager.
Correct. Yeah, that happened quite often. And I got to see different people and how they acted under pressure. And it was really interesting to kind of see that dynamic, to be honest with you.
Did you ever experience like a silo effect, either there or anywhere before, where your department was your accounting, so it wouldn't affect you as much, but where different departments really don't interact with each other and they have their own budgets and they kind of keep everything like, we're cool things, it's almost like mean girling each other.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. Even now, per se, like the other day, I had a conversation with one of the higher level individuals in my place, and he's there like, I hate when I'm in the middle of building something and then you ask me for a receipt. And I'm like, well, if you don't give me the receipt, then I can't give. And I pointed to like my boss, the finances, to, kind of report back up to like our board.
Right.
And then he started laughing. But, you kind of make little jokes of it or whatever. You kind of get people to like fall back in line. Like there's a reason why we're all here and why we have the different roles that we have. And we all have to play together nicely in the sandbox. And he didn't approach me. Actually, we get along wonderfully. So it wasn't like a bad thing, but he just kind of threw that in there like a little sass. A little sass right there. And I like sassed it back up in a funny way. And I think that's what you need to just let them know. Hey, I'm just trying to do my job. And, I have a requirement to meet a deadline for such and such reason. And sometimes they don't see that full picture. So just painting that picture is important.
Well, it's almost like the bartender joke. You only know your story. The bartender has heard everybody's story.
Oh, yes.
So they have a better idea of what's going on around them. Let me ask you, your experience goes into so many different industries, even though it's accounting based. You're really dealing with different industries.
Correct.
Have you picked up any trends or anything that you would say is, oh, that's typical for the legal ones, that's typical for the publishing ones, that's typical for the so-and-so? Like any insights that you picked up from any of them?
I love working with legal. Actually, I worked for like on the closing side with many of the attorney, and they're my favorite people to work with, to be honest with you.
Okay.
They're just like...
You're like the only person on earth that has ever said that. Okay?
I love it, to be honest with you. No, I really do. I can't say that enough. I mean, and I've done manufacturing as well. And just to be honest with you, sometimes you just, again, I cannot like reiterate the laughter part. I mean, that really just, you might soften that mean attorney, attorney, a lot of times they have that stigma where they're like frustrated because, they're dealing with such negative things or they're kind of sponging stuff in. And sometimes making them laugh like really makes them work with you a little easier. They like, they enjoy it or they want to have that interaction. So, I mean, there's a lot to say in laughter and I can't push that agenda enough.
So, I take it was very collaborative, your interactions with the attorneys.
Yes.
So they were kind of relying on you to provide them the ammunition for them to then do their thing.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And in an exciting twist, I'm going to switch to Syntheon 2.0.
Awesome.
And I want to know about technology because, especially in your industry, not that numbers have changed anytime in the last 100 years, but how has technology affected how you do your work and how you interact with other people?
Okay. So I'm going to say that definitely Syntheon 2.0, it's about a 30-year-old company, more or less, with engineers that have kind of, left and come and are still kind of there, whether they're in investments and things of that nature. But as far as technology, Oddly enough, we don't have the best technology. We have QuickBooks Desktop, which is probably like almost like
QuickBooks?
yes, QuickBooks. So we're running
So how many drinks are you going to have after this? QuickBooks is painful.
Yeah, it's very painful, but it's like Excelling. I mean, you could do a whole company on an Excel spreadsheet.
Sure.
Is it going to take you a long time? Yes. Are you going to like want to slit your wrist after? Most likely, but you could still do it, right? So QuickBooks, I mean, it has had a lot of upgrades, so I'm not going to talk so ill about it. But in my company, they're just so busy working on the engineering side and doing that type of technology that in our accounting department, you know, the technology is not really like super hyper focused on, more so our skill sets. Our ability, okay, so when I started at Syntheon, they were not paperless.
Okay.
So I made the accounting department paperless.
That right there is a major achievement.
100%. Another thing that I did for the company is I changed it from us having like a ADP payrolls now to a PEO.
Okay.
So it helped kind of take away that HR dynamic that fell on other employees there, like myself or somebody else, and kind of gave it back to the ADP umbrella. So now we have Total Source, which saved the company $100,000 just in like benefits and things of that nature. And those are projects that I've taken on for the company for myself. They didn't ask me to do those things, you know. I just said, you know what, like I see, you know, in this company I had this, how come we don't have this here? So
right.
Having that perspective of seeing like how other companies run or having that background to be able to then apply it or ask, why does this company have this and we don't? You know, those type of things have added value to Syntheon. And I continue to do those things. Like I have looked at different technologies like, you know, the Sage or all the other different types of accounting systems. And they're like $100,000 a year.
Right. But if they increase efficiencies, correct, they usually end up saving you.
Yeah. In the long run. 3 to
7x, you know, of what you'd spend on it. So that brings up another question, which I've wanted to touch on from before. So at some point, you received a master's from Penn State.
Correct.
Because, you know, we are Penn State.
Exactly.
And I they're a lovely school.
Yes.
And it was human resource management, like talent management, that world. You're in accounting.
Correct.
Because you could not have gone more opposite.
Exactly.
So what is it that happened when you, and I'm going to loop it back to Syntheon in a moment.
Okay.
What happened? You went HR route and then all of a sudden you went accounting. And you were already in accounting.
Correct. So I went and I've been in accounting because it pays well. And then I got a chance at Colonial Press to kind of do accounting and HR. And I really liked it. I really
both things.
Yes, both things, because they did not have somebody in the HR role. So they had, you know, three different shifts, a 24-hour operation.
Mm-hmm. And how many people total?
I think there was like 150 employees. A lot of warehouse working, like binding people, because again, it was a paper manufacturing company. So think about textbooks, think about flyers from Publix, Presidente, like those types of, you know, Carnival Cruise Line pamphlets, Royal Caribbean, like that's the stuff that they did. So they had, you know, these warehouse worker type people and people that have grown within the organization from, you know, being a binder to now being a manager for press, just through experience, right? They've worked for the company for 20 some odd years. And they don't necessarily have the emotional intelligence or the training needed to kind of lead these people. And we had a situation where I was overseeing like letting people go and kind of like unemployment, right? So those unemployment claims. I sat through those, fun for you guys, attorneys. I'm sure it's very similar dealing with the judges. But I went through an unemployment claim. So the warehouse manager fired the guy for punching in and leaving and then coming back a few hours later, all caught on camera.
Oh, I mean.
Yeah, but he told the guy very rudely, like, and with bad words, just get the whatever out of here. Yeah. And like, you cannot do that. Like, you cannot do that because like you have to talk to people a certain way and explain things a certain way. You can't tell people to go fly.
But at this point, to be clear, you have not yet received your master's?
Correct. So I didn't have my master's.
So you instinctually knew what consultants try to beat into the heads of CEOs and their underlings. You can't do it like that.
Correct.
So, and just to be clear, they didn't have an HR department.
Correct.
Because, there's two versions of HR. There's the HR administrative, which is, fill out forms, take care of your PTO and all those things. And usually you have someone that's like the office manager or someone like that,
Correct.
that ends up doing that kind of administrative task. Because there's nobody else, usually that's the person that also receives the complaints,
100%.
which can be complicated because oftentimes it'll be, let's say it's a small law firm. The person will hire their wife and have the wife do the accounting and all that. So what happens when the complaint is against the lawyer or it's against the the office manager? Who do you go to? Because there's no one that's neutral and is trained in conflict resolution.
Correct.
And then there's true HR management, which that's like 1% of the job. The other part is the training.
Yes.
So here you are in this position. You have zero training, but you have the instincts because of your experiences or whatnot. This must have been a catalyst for you to say, I'm good at this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love people and I love talking to different people, obviously. And I just saw the need for like how you should treat an employee. Or I was taking classes at Broward College at that time, and it was supervision and management. So there are some little background there. But at the time, that company particularly had a PEO through Paychecks. And I became really close working with the HR consultant there. So I would actually, say, hey, what do you think of this? And run things past her. And I don't know, I just got a true love for HR and like, people treatments, just through working and seeing the different types of treatments and how people would talk to each other and what you should or shouldn't do. So I fell in love with it. And then I said, okay, well, I'm kind of tired of accounting. I'm tired of these spreadsheets. I'm tired of these numbers. Let me kind of go the HR route. And then that's why, I decided to go for my master's in HR.
It was a taste test. You had already a little appetizer, and you're like, I want more.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you must have decided, I'm having such a good experience, and they're receptive because obviously they're doing what you're asking them to do for the most part. Yeah. So that's when you go and you get your degree, and that's a master. How long did it take? Year and a half?
A year.
Okay.
12 months.
So you were still at the company once you received the degree, or by that point you had moved on?
No, by that point I had moved on.
Okay.
So I went and obtained that degree, and then I figured out that I make more money in accounting than I do as an HR associate, or especially since I didn't have the SRHM, certifications, which is important also on top of your master's. So a lot of times people require the certifications, like again, the CPAs, and they like those certifications a little bit more so than the degrees kind of. So it's really just based on your personal opinion of ownership's opinion, I guess. I'm going to say. So I don't know. So once I obtained that degree and I kind of did want to go into it, I started seeing a shift in human resources a little bit in regards to like the atmosphere and what the pay was. So I'm like, okay, I meant to stay in accounting. But obtaining that degree, when I was doing my capstone, the professor, I was writing a paper and I guess I overthought the paper. He's like, you should go for your doctorate.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, ding.
All right.
So he kind of inspired me with that comment to go ahead and, obtain my doctorate. I never thought I was going to be a doctor. Ever. And finished. I didn't even know I was going to do my master's or even my bachelor's. So I never envisioned all these things. So that feedback was just like, okay, he was mad at me with that comment. He's like, you should write a dissertation. And I'm like, okay, I'll prove you I can. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. I want to make sure we talk about that. So, okay, because it's such a leap. So you went for your DBA. So you have an accounting background by experience.
Correct.
You have a human resources degree through Penn State. Now you get inspired to go for your doctorate in business administration.
Correct.
What was the motivator for you to get the master's, if you could do it in one sentence? And how does that compare to your motivator for the doctorate in business administration? So here at FIU, Dr. Baracus asked me what is motivating me to come get my DBA. And I said, one-upping my sister. That's a good enough reason. Yeah. So growing up, my mom labeled us, right? So I was the street smart child and my sister was a book smart child. So my sister had a master's. Now I have a master's. So I want to one-up my sister. I've seen that exact movie before. Let me be clear here. That's awesome. But okay, so it was a one-up thing. Yeah. Did you find that you're dealt with more credibility when you talk to other individuals and they learn that you're a doctor? I mean, I don't know if it's on your business card or if it comes up in conversation, but most individuals that are in the accounting world, short of the ones that are JDs, that are lawyers with a CPA.
Correct. Those are awesome.
Together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are, because they get it.
Yeah.
They really do get what's important. But do you find that there's a sense of credibility when you speak, or has that never been an issue because of your personality? Because there are some individuals that no matter how 100% what they're saying is accurate, they kind of get dismissed, especially if they're a woman or if they're a minority, because unfortunately society sometimes is not very pleasant.
Yeah.
And these degrees tend to help kind of overcome the challenge, like, think whatever you want, but I have a doctorate, and then all of a sudden it kind of overrides the conversation. How has your experience been regarding that? So
I changed my signature stamp to Dr. Christina Hidalgo, and that's the only place I really put it. I think it might be on my Facebook and maybe on my LinkedIn. But the respect factor has, gone up a little bit. When I changed my stamp and working with other people that I really didn't have a lot of conversation with, maybe one of the banks that we have, Ocean Bank, one of the associates there is like, oh my God, congratulations. Like, she noticed it go change from non-doctor to doctor. And she's like, it's so good, to see a woman, continue her education and blah, blah, blah. It was really celebrated. I mean, our CPA celebrated me. Everybody celebrated me. I'm celebrating myself.
You've been celebrating yourself since 1999.
Exactly. So. But definitely, I think it does give you a little bit more of a respect factor. Has it improved my income per se? Well, now I'm a professor. So, I mean, it's given me a second set of income.
Oh, so you're raking it in.
Yeah, definitely. But at my job, it didn't give me any sort of a bonus or anything for becoming a doctor. That was my personal choice. And they knew that upon hiring me that I wasn't already in that program. So whether it was a considering factor, whether they hired me or not, I don't know. But so now they know that I'm a doctor, and they're all proud of me, and it's amazing. But I think that the teaching thing was really what I...
Well, tell me about that teaching thing. I mean, tell me about Miami Dade College. I mean, did you start teaching there before you got the doctorate or after?
No, after. So it's really funny. To get into Miami Dade is a little hard. Actually, to get into any academia is a little hard. So because I had that doctorate on my resume, they called me right away. I think I sent it in on a Monday, and on Tuesday I already had the callback, and then I had the interview on Thursday. It was really fast because the need is there, right? There's not that many doctors, and I think that they're kind of changing policies on the need or what they need to kind of have. So they need to have X amount of doctors. So maybe
it is a new degree, to be fair.
Correct.
It was a PhD through Harvard in the 40s, but it didn't really become a DBA until the last 15, 20 years.
100%.
And FIU is really one of the leaders of the DBA, because I've looked around at all the other ones and, there are a few other schools that I'd be like, okay, that's a solid degree, but everywhere else it's a PhD, really.
Yeah, 100%.
And most people are not going to go into academia so exclusively. You're still working in the professional world.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think it's actually a pretty good conversation, and it goes back to the CPA, non-CPA accountant, and it goes to the DBA versus PhD. I mean, you're constantly educating people. So when somebody that doesn't know asks, what is the difference between a PhD and a DBA? Well, I'm a practitioner. So I have X amount of years of working in business world or whatever it is that, and then now I have that different designation where it's just a PhD, sometimes, not often, it can still have a practitioner. But there are students that just, go from bachelor's, master's, PhD, and they don't have that working background. So it's kind of explaining to people the difference between, PhDs versus DBAs, same thing with a CPA. I mean, you want a CPA if you do a lot of tax work, but if you're not doing taxes, then what's the point of a CPA? But right. I find it very hard. Even if I wanted to level up at this point, the argument is you don't have a CPA. I'm like, well, are you a tax? Are you
right? If you're not doing taxes, what do you care?
Yeah, what do you care? But people don't know this, right?
Well, it's a stamp of approval.
Exactly.
I know that if you're a CPA, I know you know how to do X, Y, and Z, even though 99% of the time it's tax work.
Yeah. I mean, if you're working in a big firm, let's say, GT or, one of the ones on here, EAs and all those CPA firms, and you have that working background as a CPA, that yes, but if you go to school and then just get a CPA and then you don't do tax work or you don't do your CPE credits, or you have to, but you don't necessarily know tax law unless you're constantly rereading and upping yourself on the new changes, because there's policy changes every day. I'm
Right.
sure as an attorney, you know. Like,
No, not attorney, researcher.
Okay.
I don't need the headaches of compensation insurance and 30 employees going around in circles. No.
Okay. But I mean, you constantly, I mean, policies are changing, rules are changing, regulations are changing. So I mean, you could have that CPA designation, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're really good with like a T account or, you know, your debits and credits.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, again, it's just what you morally or ethically think that you need for your company or what might work for you. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna say this not to be mean, but like a CPA might not necessarily be better than me as an accountant, you know? Like they just know tax law better than me, for sure.
And because they have the letters, they get the love. But now you have your own letters.
Exactly.
And in my opinion, your letters are higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. It's not really higher. It's just different.
Yeah. 100% different.
So, and I'm going to digress for just a second, but your background makes you perfect to be a consultant.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm just a chicken.
So are we talking about a follow-up now that you're working at a major consulting firm that has multiple tentacles in different continents?
There you go.
What is international?
I love it.
International accounting / human resources all about?
IFRS all day. And I've actually done that.
And you have?
Yes, I have.
All right.
Yeah. But no, definitely. I mean, I think, again, it's just you need to be open to learning. Things are changing constantly. Markets are changing. I think that now, I was actually reading yesterday that by 2027, gig work is going to be in. It's not going to be the full-time employees or employment that we see today. So,
and yet a lot of the early employees are going to go the route you went, where they have to work in group environments and team environments, because anybody can work in a remote setting. But my opinion is that if you don't have that discipline and you don't know what's expected of you in a group setting, in an office setting, you're going to suffer when you're remote because you don't have the time management skills. You don't have the things that would naturally have come from there. And that's why you're trying to get away from the office, because you know how to do all those things, but you can just do it at home. But those that are trained at home, and you have a lot of those 21, 22, 23-year-olds, they started with remote work. Now they go into the office and they're like, what is this? Like, they don't know how to reconcile the two things.
Yeah. I love office work, to be honest with you. It's just so, you can just contribute to a team so much easier.
Well, tell me about that. I mean, how is leadership in a financial sector, how is it different than just in normal offices? Like, what are the leadership skills that you've learned and what matters to you most when you're looking at it from a leadership? Because most people don't understand leadership isn't just one person leading a whole bunch of others. Everybody's a leader in that team, because if one person fails, the rest of the team is still responsible for making that project work.
100%.
So what have you found to be important about influencing, motivating people to help? I mean, humor is obviously one of your superpowers, but there's more to it than just humor. I mean, a good joke is not going to get someone to stay up till 4 a.m.
Correct.
To work on something. So tell me, what do you think?
I think definitely you need to be able to speak on many different topics and get that respect from people. I mean, you want to be able to have a conversation on anything, whether it's sports, whether you like it or not. You need to know a little bit about it to be able to, have that nice date or those nice conversations. I think that, you don't need to be an expert per se on subjects, but just to know about it, to be able to talk about it a little bit, right? And I think so a lot of it is not just like having these degrees or honing or focusing on one thing, but focusing on many things, because you don't necessarily need to be an expert. You just need to be able to, look up or find answers to certain things or problems. And I think that actually going back, now that we brought this conversation, and working at Carnival Cruise Lines actually kind of made me a better employee overall, now that I think about it, because their motto is like, if you don't know the answers, you don't say, I don't know. You say, I'll get back to you.
Oh, okay.
And that really puts it into perspective, because, if you don't know the answer, it's okay not to know the answer. But
you don't say it. Say you're going to work on it.
Exactly. And you do. And then you come back to them and you say, well, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you at this time, but it's this, this, and this.
So is Wikipedia your friend? You're always looking everything up?
The most silliest things I'll look up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having conversations with my staff every morning when they come in. Like, literally, they don't even go to their desk. They come, they drop their things at my desk. We have kind of like a powwow. Hey, how are you? How's everything? How's family life? That's important. And then work. And I kind of instilled that to my team. And they come in every morning. We have those powwows. And if we start on a topic and I don't know anything about it, while I'm talking to them, just Googling or researching. I mean, I think that's very important.
Um, I don't like to get serious, but it's kind of important to balance the story because it has been almost entirely a rosy success story. The way you describe it, it's beautiful, and I know that every rose has its thorn.
100%.
If you don't mind,
Yeah.
tell me about the challenges you've experienced. I ask you that because we've had guests that were dealing with cancer as they're working. They're going on their third divorce.
Yeah.
They're having children and someone, and somebody, dies or whatnot. And then you have other people where everything just has been fine for the most part. So what challenges have you experienced personally through this journey as you're picking up your degrees, you're picking up your experience? And more importantly, how did you deal with it? Not necessarily at home, but how did you deal with it in the context of in the office setting?
Okay. Definitely seen a lot of different things in the office setting. I've had major breakups while at work. And I've seen other people have major breakups while at work. Some people will sit there in their office and cry and die all day. Myself, I know I had something to do. I have a responsibility and, I'll cry and die at night if that's the case. I mean, you're either a victim or a victor of anything. So I think that my hardest thing for me personally, especially coming from like a Cuban Hispanic family, was coming out as, being a lesbian, I guess. Mm-hmm. That was really tough. My mom loved my ex-husband, who I was with since we were like high school sweethearts. It was hard. We were best friends, but it just didn't fit, so that was the breaking factor. And then my family accepting that, my sexual preference was, same sex. And that was really hard and something hard to unpack, as Roman Catholics. It's kind of frowned upon and things of that nature. But I think that I had to process that time kind of alone. Holidays were a little hard. I was still working through it. I never quit, never missed days of work. Maybe I focused on that and that helped me get through. Personally, maybe I honestly think that's probably the case. But I think that I kind of learned through that and other people that I have many labels. Like right now, my favorite label, it's not doctor, it's mom. That's my favorite label. It's my favorite chapter of life. I mean, I could speak business all day, but at the end of the day, when I come home and my kids say, "Mommy, I love you," or give me that hug, that really puts it into perspective. And that's why I work as hard as I do, to make them and give them a better life, so. And again, my kids are adopted. So it's, what is it? Nurture versus nature. So there's different things to think and unpack there. But I would say that don't let people label you or give you a label. I'm a lesbian. I'm a proud lesbian. But is that my only title? No. Does that make me see politically one way? No. I have so many other things that you need to unpack to kind of, drive my life, and my choices. But my favorite title, and the only title that I'll let anybody run with, is mom. Doctor, hey, it's fun. But mom is my most proud title. And, some people choose that maybe they don't want that responsibility to become a parent, and that's okay too. But in life, you're either a victim or a victor. Choose it. I always choose a victor, so.
I was going to say, what advice can you give to students? But honestly, that is the greatest advice you could ever give.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice I could give. I mean, don't sit and stare at a label and, own it. I mean, obviously own all your labels. I own all my labels. Mm. But it doesn't really define you. You define yourself however you want to be defined. Whether you want people to respect you, then, find the way for them to respect you. I find it in humor. I find it in being a little bit maybe considered labeled crazy. I TMI, but it's fun because, now you're going to always remember me.
And with that, I will conclude the interview. Awesome. And I thank you for joining me, Dr. Christina Hidalgo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Meeting you. Thank you.
Pleasure meeting you too. Authenticity and resilience are the keys to a fulfilling life. Stay true to who you are, and remember, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. This episode is dedicated to those who find strength in vulnerability and share their truth in inspiring others. I'm Alex Ponce. Join us again soon for more remarkable stories.